All right, thank you. All right, so as we kick off today's call, I want to welcome everyone to 2025. Not sure how that happened, however, it did. Shocking, shocking. So this call happens the first and the third Fridays of each month. It's called the Free Friday Coaching Call, and the main audience that jumps on these calls is real estate agents because of the history of how these calls came about. However, skill sets are transferable into any industry. And the things that we learn personally and professionally can be used really anywhere in our lives if we choose to apply them there. So I want to welcome everyone, regardless of what industry that you may be in. The history of how these calls came about, just for those of you that may be jumping on for the first time or haven't been here for a while, is that my late husband, Council-Geha, spent 43 years in real estate as a top producing agent, speaker, trainer, and coach in the industry. And when he would travel and train, he would always give out his cell phone number and he would say to people, "You need anything, I need anything, and you call me." And people would call him. And that got to be a little bit of a capacity issue. So he created these calls as a conversation to help people work on their mindset and their skill set in business and in life. And the objective of these is always a context of growth. And as a community, how we can become better and continue that growth process in an upward trajectory, which sometimes feels like this, because that is what growth looks like when it's actually happening. So for those of you that are here for the first time, welcome. These calls are recorded. You can always go back and catalog them. We have them for years. And sometimes they're in the form of topics like today, and sometimes they're in the form of interviews. We had some incredible interviews in 2024 that we did that are skill set, mindset based as well. So as we jump into today's conversation, there was some promotional material that went out in the form of a short video that could have been a little bit depressing, depending on how you chose to look at it. And then a little teaser about what today's call was going to be actually about. And so I'd like to open up today's conversation with what had you jump on the call today, and what do you want to walk away with based on what you saw before you got on here? No wrong answers. When you come off mute, let us know who you are and where you're from, please.
Hi, this is Tina Hernandez. How are you? Oh, from Orange County, California. I don't know if Rosie's on here, but the funny thing is when I saw your marketing material was this morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I said to myself, I need to do something different this year. Well, mind you, I'm still on vacation, right? So I'm like, I need to do something different, transformative this year. I should really be, doing some gratitude or something at 5 a.m. when I get up, instead of watching the news. And I sat there, and the last probably 6 pictures of me to my girlfriend, Rosie, was me on the couch binge watching TV. She's like, your pictures haven't changed, just your clothes have. So I know that you're taking a shower, so we're good. Then I saw that I said that, and while I'm scrolling, I saw your marketing this morning that says, new year, new you. And I'm like, is she watching me? So that's why I'm here.
I love it. I love your honesty and transparency, Tina. Yes, I'm always watching you because I adore you. And I want to know what you're up to. All right, fantastic. For anyone else that jumped on the call this morning, what had you jump on and what do you want to walk away with?
Well, Casey, I'm Patricia Ramirez, and I am in Concord, California. And I've known Casey for many, many years, as she said, and she's always been on this path of growth. And I feel like I've really got on a path of growth for the last 2 years. And I wanted, this is a time where actually I should have been doing this before, but planning what are my goals for 2025? How can I take it to the next level? So when I saw your post, Casey, it really just talked to me like, how can I really make this 2025 a beautiful, great year that I want to create? So that's why and then it's you. So that's why I'm here.
I love that. I love that. I've known Patricia since I was 15 years old. So that is 35 years. She knows a lot about me that none of you will ever be privy to. All right, we'll take one more. What had you jump on this morning?
Hi, Casey.
Hi.
Nina Loisel, and I would come on and listen to you any day, all day. So I'm really looking forward to what you've got to say. And it just came up, it just popped in. I'd never heard of this call before from you.
All right. Well, now the pressure's on. And where are you calling in from today, Nina?
From the UK.
From the UK. Well, happy to have you here.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so we're going to jump into our topic today, which is the power of setting a context. And we're going to look at it in three very important lenses or filters. Number one, what is a context? Number two, why would you set one? And number three, how do you use it actually as a tool to create something different? So we're going to start off with number one. And how many of you have seen people? I mean, we're at the beginning of the year, so you'll see a lot of people doing this. And sometimes you see it in the form of one of those little, it looks like a puzzle sort of, and it says, oh, the first three words is what your 2025 is going to be about, or the first words you see. Have you guys seen those? And then you'll see other people that are posting, hey, my word for the year, this is my word for the year. Have people seen that? And then 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now is, what is the implication of the word that you chose? What is it actually doing for you in your life and your business other than just being a concept or an idea? And so we're going to look at it through a totally different lens, and that it's not a word, it's actually a context. And the power of context is that it is a filter and it is a container. So let me tell you what I mean by that. So let's start off with the container piece. If you were to actually have something that you were looking at. And I remember when I got introduced to this idea, it was 2006, and it was in the form of this idea about content and context. So when we go and set goals for the year, whatever those goals are, those would be the content. And many people will set goals, physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, relationally, and they'll set them in those different areas of life. And that's all the content. And in the absence of context, I would say there's something missing. So if you were to think of this visually as fruit and a bowl that holds the fruit, the goals are the fruit, right? So you've got lemons, you got limes, you got oranges, things that are rolly for the purpose of this illustration. And then you've got the bowl, which is the context that holds those things in. Now imagine if you don't have context and all you have is goals. And you've got oranges and limes and lemons and things rolling around. And I mean, it's like all over the place, right? So, yeah, and yet most people will be like, hey, if I set some goals for the year and I'm going to work towards these goals, then okay, great. And some people achieve goals, and some people are professional goal setters. How many of you have ever felt like a professional goal setter? I know I have. It's like the beginning of the year. I'm like, okay, taking the inventory. What did I do last year? Check off the box. Okay, great. And I'm going to set all of these goals for 2025. I'm like, imagine what it would be like if they actually happened. That would be incredible. And that's why we set them, is that ideally we're going to drive ourselves forward. We're going to create different habits, different skill sets, different strengths that are going to turn us into the person that achieves that goal. And if our goals are pieces of fruit rolling around on the counter and possibly dropping on the floor because they have no context, it's going to be a totally different experience than if we get very intentional about what is the overarching concept or idea, anchor, North Star, compass, whatever you want to call it, that is the context that's going to hold all of those goals that you set for the year. And so this idea about it is not just a word, context becomes very, very important. And people will throw things out there very casually. I'm going to invite you to take an entirely different approach and different process to selecting the one word that will become your context for the year when you understand the power that it holds as it relates to the goals that you'll set and the life that you'll create this year. So I'm going to pause for a moment. And I know this is for some of you a new concept, a new idea. I want to give it a chance to soak in a little bit. And any questions, comments, feedback, perspective, or even experience that you have if you've used this tool of setting and using a context throughout the year. Now that we know what one is. I'll wait till someone shares.
Okay, I'll share. I'm Cheryl Lister from Oklahoma City. We are your Oklahomies, and I will probably be on any call that Casey's on any day. So I'm going to piggyback off what Nina said. I already chose my word, and it's reclaim, because I let my organization go in Mecca's last year, and it was all my fault because I am the leader. And when I say reclaim, I want to reclaim everything. I want to claim the things that I already have, but reclaim the things that I lost, which is like my numbers, my power, my leadership position. I kind of skimped a little bit last year, thinking that I could leverage off early, and that was the wrong move to make. So for me, we're here today, and the team's on, got people in my office. We're here to reclaim our leadership, and for me, my numbers. That's where I'm
I
at.
love that. I love that. So that is that is very powerful when you think about it. So if you think about reclaim being the bowl that's going to hold all of the goals that you have, and I'm going to encourage you to go into every area of your life, right? So physically, what does it look like to reclaim around any physical goals that you have around your health? Maybe it's around your energy. Maybe it is around mental health. Maybe it is around mental clarity, anything having to do physically. What does it look like to reclaim that? And and then the numbers, piece, obviously, and positioning and business growth and how that is going to roll out. So when we give meaning, the context is what is going to give the meaning to the goals and the things that you've set that you're working towards. Because at the end of the day, the context is going to be something that you experience. It's the experience that you're creating for yourself, regardless of what's happening around you. So I'll give you guys an example for those of you that may have been on this call that I did last year. In 2023, my context was joy. And the reason why I set that as my context is because Rick and I had been doing a ton of business travel, and we had purchased our dream home in 2021, which is near the water and the beach. And I had no desire to go anywhere. And yet, to support the growth that we wanted to have in our business and support the people that we love and care about that we're in business with, it was going to require business travel. And we had a big commitment around that. And 48 hours before we travel, I would get really resentful because I was packing up into yet another suitcase to go be in yet more lines at the airport and hit the ground running with meeting after meeting, into events, and back on a plane home to unpack, repack, do the same thing going somewhere else. And I was completely happy being home because we had, hit a lifelong goal of ours, which was to purchase the home that we're in. And so I chose the goal joy in 2023 because I wanted to create a different experience while doing the things that I knew were going to be important for me to do to hit the goals and objectives that we wanted to hit professionally. Now, when you pick a context, and we're going to go into this as we develop this idea, we're talking about what that context is. And so I'm going to talk about how you pick it. And this is going into that. So how you pick it is you can look and see where there may be a void or a gap, right? So for me, that void or that gap was in the experience that I was creating for myself, which was not very fun because it wasn't a matter of if we were going to do the business travel, we were going to do the business travel. And could I have made another choice, which was to stay home and not do it and let Rick go? Yes. However, we were partnered in everything. And so that did not fit the context of partnership in our relationship. So could Casey suck it up and just have a good attitude? Well, she could. However, this idea of creating a context of joy was one that if that is how I'm choosing to operate, the place I'm choosing to operate from, and what I'm going to create from, what's the experience I'm going to have, and what are the chances that I'm going to create something far more magnificent than if I go into it without that. So how you pick your context for the year can quite often be in areas that you identify where there is a gap or something happening that maybe you don't want, that you don't enjoy. And what would be the opposite of that? What would be a word that would be the opposite of that would pull you through that and out of that, if that's just how you chose to do it, right? So for 2024, that was, 2023 was like, oh, I picked joy. And then the strongest mentor, coach, and one of my greatest friends passes in an airplane crash flying his plane January 2nd that year that I chose joy, 2 days after the year starts. And 10 months later, Rick passes away, the year that my context is joy. And why does this become important? This becomes important because that context lives as a piece of everything that's going on. So when you think, oh, you lose someone very close to you, or, the most important person that's close to you in your life, and you've got a context of joy, well, we'll just like throw it out. And, clearly that's not going to be the context based on what's going on. No, that becomes why that context is even more important, because in grief and sadness, that's a piece of what happens in life. However, joy is also a piece. And when we go through challenges and when we go through obstacles, the easiest thing to do is to be sucked in and focus on where we would naturally go to in a challenge and obstacle versus, no, you know what, I've got this context that I've chosen for the year. So as I go through sadness and grief, where do I find and look for joy so that I can experience that as well and not shut myself off into a one-sided human experience, because human experience is never one-sided. So we've talked about what the context is. We've talked about how to pick one. And now here's going to be the piece that gets a little interesting with how you actually use it and why you're using it. So my context that I've chosen for 2025 is embrace, by way of example. And why did I choose that context? Well, in 2024, my context was possibilities, specifically falling in love with what's possible, which is 180 degrees the opposite of what I was feeling when I went into 2024. And I chose that context in 2024 about possibility and falling in love with what's possible, to keep an anchoring thought in my head of the best is yet to come. Totally opposite of what I was actually feeling and experiencing. So like, the best is yet to come. Live in that place of possibility. Fall in love with what's possible. I haven't yet experienced it. I don't even know what it is. And what can come in when that's in that space. So, and things come in and will come in ways that you would never see or that you would never expect, right? So people came into my life that I did not know before. Opportunities came into my life that never would have come in before had I not been in the situation that I was in as a result of Rick passing and me choosing this context of falling in love with what's possible. Did it make the pain, the grief, the sadness, the depression, anything of those other things not happen in the same level? No, they were happening in the same level in the background. However, the context that I picked of possibility and staying in the fact that there's infinite possibilities was side by side as I went through that process. So I never went only into that process as a hole that I wasn't going to come out of. It was a very parallel journey to walk. So when you're thinking about your context that you're going to pick, and now I've picked the word embrace for 2025. Why did I pick the word embrace for 2025? And the reason why I'm sharing these intimate details with you is to get you thinking about what you're going to pick and select for yourself. Is that I remember in 2024, I'm like, I have no idea what this year's going to bring. I just want to get through it and all of the firsts and navigate whatever those things are going to be, the things that I know and all the things that will be unknown. And if I am still standing at the end of the year, of all of that, standing in a place of possibility and falling in love with what's possible, then it's like, okay, just it's like this is it, like literally just get through this year. Because of the, extremity of everything that was going on in the background. So when I looked up at 2025 and it's like, well, when I look at growing in 2025, yeah, okay, I'm gonna carry with me that the best is yet to come. I'm staying the fact that there's infinite possibilities. I'm not throwing away my context from 2024. However, the focus in 2025 is the word that I've chosen, which is embrace. Embrace, meaning wrap my arms around draw close in to me and embrace everything about what my goals are going to be for 2025. Embrace the fact that I watched my husband pass away at the end of 2023 versus just deal with it, which is what I did in 2024. Like, think about the power of that one shift of, okay, infinite possibilities, falling in love with what's possible, dealing with the grief, which, you know, will be ongoing, right? Versus embracing it, embracing it. It's a totally different relationship. It's a relationship of survival. I'm going to survive with it and navigate it, to I'm going to put my arms around it and I'm going to bring it in close to me and live with it in that way. And okay, so that's on the personal side, right? Professionally, embrace what there is to do to hit the goals that I've got for myself and for our organization that we're growing with. Embrace the consistency to continue on the health and fitness journey I started in May of 2024. And the fact that when I, had a day that went sideways yesterday and took me all day to get home of travel, that when the alarm went off at 4:40 this morning to hit my 5:30 workout, I thought of that word, embrace. I've embraced this. So I rolled out of bed and I got up and I went, right? Different than, oh my goodness, that yesterday didn't go as planned, so I'll pick it up, tomorrow. No. So this context, this idea of embracing, bringing in close, right? And I mean, here's the thing. Here's what you want to know, regardless of the context that you choose. I have a leader in our organization last year that leads an organization over 1,500 real estate agents. And this leader picked the word growth for their context for the year. Well, when you pick a context for the year, the opposite is by nature going to come in. So there was a mass exodus of agents that left the organization in 2024. His organization is also part of my organization. Well, of course it did. He picked growth. And the opposite happens when you pick that, right? And then, so what happens at the same time though, is when he had that context of growth. So know that the opposite will come in automatically, regardless of what you pick. And know that that does not mean that you're not on track. It means you're 100% on track, because what happened for him when that happened, he doubled down on his skill set, he doubled down on his systems, and he leaned in to grow and attract the next layer of talent and people that would join the organization, and did that with like a ferocious appetite, right? Like, hey, I picked growth. Yeah, except for when you pick growth, you're automatically asking for the refiner's fire. Do you guys know what the refiner's fire is? So here's the refiner's fire. When they heat up metal like gold, there's a ton of impurities that are in the gold. And so they'll heat it up literally to really high heats. And what happens is it turns liquid. As that metal turns liquid, anything that is impure will rise to the surface. They remove the heat. And then when it cools, along the top is all of the impurities that can then be scraped off. So what you're left with is pure gold. I had this conversation with him when, it was a really tough day in 2024. I'm like, yeah, you told you a context of growth. And then like, here's the refiner's fire. And think about the exodus and some of the faces that left. Was it a cleansing? Well, yeah, it actually was. It really was. Right. So instead of looking at it like, oh my goodness, I set this context for growth in 2024 for, specifically in this, we're talking in a business context now for an organization. And then all of these people left the organization and my context with growth was growth and I'm discouraged. It's like, no, when you set your context, the opposite will come in. And what that's going to do is gives you the opportunity not to go, oh, it's not meant to be. It must not be meant to be because this wouldn't be happening if it was meant to be. please. That is like the most lame chicken exit out of life when obstacles, present themselves. It was absolutely meant to be. The question is, what are you going to do with it now? What are you going to do with it? And who are you going to become as a result of doing something that you had never intended to do in this way because of this other thing that arose and that came in? And so don't be in a place of denial or illusion about setting a context of like, oh, well, I'm going to find the perfect word. And when I get the perfect context for myself, then it's just going to be like, things are on their way. No, no, no. They're going to come in opposite, right? So, I laugh at this because I had no idea. I'm like, oh my goodness, I've got this call on Friday. I had no idea what my context was. And it's December 30th. And Rick and I used to be in this process together for like the last week of the year. We'd be in conversations about it. We'd be talking about the year that we just had and the year coming up. And like, there's no Rick. And not only that, I'm with my godkids. So there's, 4 6-year-olds running around and their 9-year-old sister for the last 5 days. And I'm like, I've got this call on Friday and I have no context. And then, we had an adult conversation on New Year's Eve and it was, and this came out of it. It was, this embrace, right? And so less than 48 hours later, I have the opportunity to use the context because the opposite is happening. And we're in the how you use your context part of the conversation. So my flight was scheduled for yesterday morning at 5 a.m., which meant a 3:20 Uber ride. At 3 o'clock, the alarm goes off and I'm packed and I'm ready to go. All I have to do is brush my teeth and put on my clothes. And my sister and I are out the door, except for that she comes out of the bathroom and goes, oh, our flight was canceled 3 hours ago. And I'm like, well, that's hilarious. And so I look at my phone and not only are they not getting me in yesterday, they're not getting me until tonight. So, 48 hours later. And well, that's not going to work. So then I'm on the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning with the, getting into solution. Instead of flying in 10 minutes where I live from, I'm now flying in an hour and a half away, which is, $200 Uber ride. Which is just, I'm like, and then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I set the it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm irritated, as you can imagine. And I'm like, wait, I set the context of embrace. Like embrace is my context. And I immediately shifted my little cranky self into a different energy. I became much nicer to the person on the phone that was attempting to help me get home. And we got it resolved, right? And so, and then there was 3 flight delays after that. And anyways, it turned into this like 16-hour day of travel. And it didn't matter because I had embraced the fact that this is my context. All of this is happening. And so instead of going on the emotional roller coaster ride of things that I had absolutely no control over, it's like, all right, well, this is, who am I supposed to meet? And it's not the end of the world. Meanwhile, I run across a Facebook post from somebody who is like just having this insane experience about things that actually matter in life, not, inconveniences like flight delays and travels. And I'm reminded of the full spectrum of where our energies go. And when we allow the outside world and environment to influence us because we don't have a context that we've chosen to stand in for the year. And so your context word that you choose is something that's designed to be actively used, sometimes moment by moment, right? And as to navigate for the year. And so pick one that is like you're going to really fall in love with and it's going to work, right? I remember in 2019, Rick's word was resurgam, resurgam. And it was, he picked that word because he had finally paid off every single last cent. And we had done that together and we were starting literally at zero like nothing in January 2019. And so he picked that word resurgam, meaning I will rise again, because that is what kept him clearly focused. He had a voracious hunger and appetite, and he was incredibly effective And we did that together, right? So everything about every challenge, every obstacle, every struggle, everything that happened in that year was like, hey, this is all in the rising and getting up. This is our context for the year. It's part of the process that we're in. And I'm not upset about the fact that, you know, you're in your late 50s and I'm in my late 40s. And this is where we're at in life right now. And we expected we'd be somewhere different. No, that wasn't the conversation. The conversation was the context, his context for the year was resurgam, and mine was unapologetically, meaning I'm not explaining myself. I don't owe anybody anything. And it's to me, to thine own self be true, and actually have that be okay. So as you think about this is, you know, it's a big conversation. But we go back and recap the context is this tool, right? It is a framework that's going to hold and give shape to all of those individual goals that you're setting for yourself this year in all different areas of your life. And so when you look at those goals, how is that context going to support you for the goals that you've set? And when you're working on a certain area or a certain goal that you have, and most importantly, when you come up against resistance that will happen, how are you using your context to be able to move you forward, knowing that everything that is happening for you is on the way to where you're intending to go? It is not in the way. So often, things can feel in the way, particularly when we've got goals set or we're clear on where we want to go. And then all of the life and other things that we hadn't planned for happen, right? And we get really rigid instead of being really flexible and flowing with, because it's like, all right, yep, I've got my context that's going to be the thing that brings me back to center on these things that I'm working on and moving forward, and embracing the fact that that does not an indication that that you're off track, that you're 100% on track. So when we think about where all of this sits, if we were to pick the highest context possible for the conversation that we're having right now, it's this acknowledgement that at any moment in time, each one of us are in growth or we're in decay. There's not a lot of decay in resistance. There's not a lot of resistance in decay. So if you're in decay, you're not having challenges and obstacles, really. You might think you are, however, you're more than likely just being whiny. Because challenges and obstacles don't really live in a state of decay. In a state of growth, which is the highest context of what we're talking about now, we're talking about getting really clear on what your intentions are, what you want to create in every aspect of your life, personally, professionally, you know, and get clear and write them down. There's a power in writing them down, not typing them, writing them down. And once you've got that clarity around your intention and you've selected a context that's going to support you this year, like you're going to have the whole year to develop this relationship with it, a working relationship with your context. And it is the reason why it is the tool is because it will be the thing that helps you reset, that shifts, that refocuses, that brings you back, and that keeps moving you forward as life will inevitably unfold and continue to happen. So with that, questions, comments, thoughts, anything that's come up for you since we've been talking that you'd like to share?
I'll just go because I'm unapologetic. No.
I love it.
So, I was thinking like for my word to be free or courage, but then to me that just seemed too vague. So, I mean, I guess that's my own thing of what's coming up is to just be really focused in on more of action or like in coming up with the word where it's not, is there a way that we're just, maybe I'm being too vague in my word or should it be more focused or?
Yeah, so tell me, so first off, yeah, this is a great thing, and I'm going to help you get down to getting more clear. So for everybody that's listening now that you're not 100% clear on yours, or you think you've got yours and you'd like me to challenge you on it to see if it's really it.
Oh,
I'm
fun.
I'm happy to do that. that can be a fun process too, because it's a process of, exploration and discovery. So you started off with free. So
Free.
what's
So like
driving that being your word?
well, it's funny because I texted you this morning, people pleasing or worried about what someone thinks or worried about if I hurt somebody's feelings and you know me forever. And I've always been like, I don't want to upset anybody. But this year it's like, I wanted to say, I'm me, I'm 58 and I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And that's okay. That's where I'm focused on, I guess.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say in that is actually liberated.
Oh, okay. I like it. Thank
So
you.
if you think about the difference between free and liberated and the opposite of what could come in with free,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
It could be, it's like, all right, versus the ultimate objective that I'm hearing, and this could, is maybe not it, maybe it's on the way to it, is this idea of being liberated, where energetically Patricia stands in Patricia and the world bows around.
I love it. I
Like,
love it.
right? Because
Uh-huh.
for the people that will share your space, the people that you're going to do business with, the relationships that you have in your life, the relationship even that you have with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If that is liberated, and then you look at the goals that you have, the other goals that you have, like if you think about the business ones, and you don't have to share what those are, that yes, Selena, here I stand and the world will adjust. Does that
Love it.
concept of liberated, would it serve you in those areas as well? And what would change or be different if you actually lived into that context in those areas?
I love it because I don't work for the company that I work for anymore, and just started my own business. So that just totally goes with the whole year. So that's great. I love it. Thank you.
And congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So in big fun letters around where you spend the most time, and maybe it's everywhere, right? Could be sticky notes in the bathroom, could be a sticky note on your rearview mirror, or, maybe not if it impedes your view driving, however, somewhere you spend a lot of time in the car, like as a reminder, because that kind of contextual shift or change really disrupts the apple cart for everyone in your life that's not experienced you in that way.
Okay.
And what will naturally happen is that it will incite fear of losing you in those people. And when people are in a state of fear, that survival brain kicks in and they do things and they say things and they might be things that are like not cool,
Mm-hmm.
because they don't have the awareness of what's going actually on for them that is having them react or respond in that way. And so because I know you and you've been on a journey of, personal development and introspection and getting a whole new set of tools the last couple of years that are new for you, like when someone has the courage to do that, it's very confrontive, because
Mm-hmm.
it automatically means that you are creating a difference that may be perceived by other people as better than, because they have an inferiority that comes up, and it's not a better than for you at all. It is a being true to who you actually are, not at the cost of everyone else feeling okay, right? And
Right.
so in that, when you take that back, just know that as that happens, like it will happen. That's it, by virtue of you choosing that context of liberated, that's what's going to happen. And so that when it's happening, you're like, I'm on track. I'm on track.
Mm-hmm.
And you can love people where they're at. And sometimes we bless and release them. And some people it's fabulous to release, and
Mm-hmm.
that can be the thing that releases. And for other people, we just bless and keep. And we love them because we choose to keep them around. And so you'll have an opportunity to do that. And then when you do that, you're going to shift literally the foundation of the type of people that come into your world that are going to do business with you, the relationships that you don't yet have, because you will have created this entirely different experience for yourself. And it's pretty insane. It's pretty insane.
Well, just
Like,
talking about it, I got really nervous. So
yeah.
I'm really uncomfortable. So I know I must be on the right track because when you started saying, I'm like, oh yeah, that's gonna happen. So I feel like that's the right word, but it's kind of scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's how you know you're on track. And so here's the great thing. And this is something that I was in, it was I'll never forget it. It was February of 2007 and I was in a women's leadership week. And and this concept, you know, came up and it came up really strong. And it was this idea of in a system of where I rated myself, of where I was engaging with life and business, if it was at 100%, if it was like, you know, in the 90 to 100%, and you know, just where I sat. And so I knew that I was like in the 90s, like good, not fantastic, good, you know, by anybody else's terms, looking from the outside. Yeah, great, right? However, for me, I knew it was good. And when the person that was facilitating that experience said, why aren't you in 100%? Like, why aren't you in your life 100%? Why aren't you in your business 100%? Why aren't you in your health 100%? Like, why aren't you 100%? The honest truth of what came up in that moment was because nobody in my life is that I'm surrounded by. And if I am, I will lose them, and therefore I will be alone. And she said two things to me that were really powerful. One was, well, that's interesting. Why don't you just take them with you? And the second thing that she said was, there is a whole group of people that play at 100% that you will find when you are. And in that moment, I just remember thinking to myself, oh my goodness, am I going to stay at 90 some percent, which looks great by anybody else's standards, that I know I'm settling for less than what's possible for me, really? And am I going to continue to have a story about that it's okay, so that all these people that I've, you know, been with for my life, that are my people, my community, my family, my friends, everybody has this, you know, like where everyone fits within that, versus the possibility of what if they don't want to come along? And many of them didn't. And yet that experience of then, okay, and when I choose the 100%, I find other 100%ers. There was no gap. Sadness and a little bit of grief, for sure, not a little bit, grief for the people that I loved and cared about not wanting more for themselves, not wanting to be at their own 100%. However, realizing like I have no control over that, and I'm not going to sacrifice my 100% so that you can feel better about yourself. Right. And so I'm so excited for your word and encourage you to keep plugging in where there's other people that are liberated, that are already living in that experience, because those will be your people as you walk that path, and the muscle will get stronger and stronger and stronger. Thank you for sharing. All right. Who else?
I'll jump on.
Amberly
Good
from,
morning,
where are you from
Amberly.
today?
I'm out of Orange County this morning.
Okay.
So I just want to say thank you, Casey, as always, just sharing, pouring into us, sharing your word of the year and listening to you go over context and content. You know, for some reason, I think last year was when I had shared, you know, I never even knew of choosing to have a word for the year. And silly enough, here we're already January 3rd and I haven't picked a word. So while listening to you share, one of the things that popped into my mind was setting boundaries, and setting boundaries in a way to where I can continue on my own goals. So I feel like a lot of the time too, through work and whatever, I just like to, my mindset where I like to create solutions, right? And sometimes when I think I'm taking on solutions, I'm also setting myself back because I'm overreaching my own boundaries to help somebody else, etc., in all areas of life. So for me, what I was thinking is, you know, I'm going to have some time next week where I have set aside 5 days. We're going to be going out of town. And while everybody else is snowboarding, skiing, I've actually not bought any lift tickets because that's my quiet time that I'm going to have to go over my business planning again and set in writing what I want to do for the year. So any other insight you have on boundaries, or maybe another word that would serve that? I don't know. That's just kind of where my mind is going for 2025.
Yeah, so I think a boundary in and of itself doesn't necessarily mean anything unless you're going to give something to it. So if you were to fast forward and go, okay, if boundary was what you're intending that to be, that relationship changed, what would be different? So tell me what would be different.
Um, like I said, the way that I'm perceiving it is just like not overextending myself consistently, because then that takes away from other areas. So if I set, helping with delegation to having healthy boundaries would allow me to really focus and be in 100% of what I want to do, instead of being, I guess, kind of pulled left and right depending on which way the wind blows,
So what I'm hearing you say is prioritize you.
Okay. That's a good one.
So what happens if you prioritize you?
And things get done. I'm happy, and I'm at a much better state of mind, energy, all of those things behind it when I can focus on me first, then I feel like everything else flows better from there.
Now there's
But
an
I'm learning.
There's an interesting thing that I've noticed, and I've noticed it amongst my female friends, is there's a real challenge prioritizing self. And
Yeah.
that's where the challenge with boundaries comes in. And, if you've got kids, a spouse, team, organization, and it's like, well, I have these people that are depending on me, and they depend on me for the things they depend on me for, and my support and me serving and doing all of those things. And so that can be like prioritize me as a context for the year can be very confrontive, because that's something you get up every day with. So if you got up every day with, oh, my context is prioritize me, and where am I actually doing that today? And that will start with first thing in the day, how you start your day. And you're never going to just not do your business, and you're never not going to take care of your kids, and you're never going to just neglect your significant other, or so, the people that you have in your life. Like they're always going to be, you'll always attend to those things.
Yeah.
However, interestingly enough, sometimes it's really easy to do and some people die on the altar of that and wear it as a badge of honor. Because look at me, I'm taking care of all of these people. Superwoman. Who cares? It's really being a martyr, right? Versus I'm prioritizing me. Here's what it looks like. And when I'm prioritizing me and I'm my best, you're going to get my best, which is going to be good for you also. So that could be a very confrontive and opportunity that will handle the boundary piece, right?
Yeah.
Because it's higher context than boundaries.
Mhm.
And other things can flow through that.
I like it. I'm all on board.
Is Jeff on this call? Am I in trouble?
No, he's out the door.
That's okay. You can send him to me. I'll help him pick a context that'll
Yes,
support.
I think that would be great too. Yeah, so I like that. Prioritize self. Yes, I have a lot of great things that are in plan for this year, and I think with prioritize self is gonna actually help me get there. So it's gonna do it.
I love that. So, and this brings up another topic, is that if you have a spouse or a significant other, and Rick and I did this for, oh my goodness, I don't know, we've done this for as long as we were together, because we were involved in the personal development that we were involved in, is that we would each pick our individual contexts. So he would pick his, I would pick mine, and then we would pick one word as a couple that was going to be our context together as a couple for the year. So one year it was flourish, one year it was fun, one year it was intimacy, because we were and that didn't mean sex. I mean, it could, but intimacy, why we picked the word intimacy is because both of us were so spread in serving, helping, working with others. And while we were doing it side by side, we were in the illusion that well, we're physically together doing all of these things, except for it really wasn't focused in on each other at all. Right. So the year that we chose the word intimacy, it was like, oh yeah, okay, we're going to go out and still be doing all the things with all the people that we are going to be doing in a business context. However, we're doing that this year with an overarching context of intimacy. So we started doing things differently, like arriving earlier and not telling people that we were actually in till we were in or available till the next day. And so we started making that a priority for the year so that our relationship could go to the next level, because everything else was already in process and, and running and working. So I would highly encourage you, if you're in a relationship, that you get your partner on board with having their context for the year so that you can support them in that, and that they can support you in yours. And that if you've got one together as a couple, that now you've got this context that holds the relationship so that your fruits aren't rolling all over the place in different directions and off the counter and maybe out of each other's life, to be extreme, right? Because over a period of time, if that happens long enough, that can happen. So definitely setting a context as a couple is a great thing to do as well. Okay, we've got time for one, maybe two more shares before we hit the top of the hour.
Okay, it's me now.
Ralph
I kept- I
Hurtado,
kept-
thank you for representing.
I kept on hitting unmute, and I'm like, I'm getting beat, but I'm here now. So my word that I've kind of been kicking around is uphold.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because there's times that I'm not upholding even my own commitments to myself that I need to do. And there's other beliefs and commitments that I've made like outside that I need to uphold. And there's been sometimes I let things get in the way. So, I'd rather like the last kind of just being with family and things like that, over the last, like 2 weeks, there's things that I'm like, no, I'm going to, uphold my beliefs and what I'm, going to do. And I'm not going to get distracted by these, these outside sources. So, and I don't know if that's too light of a word, because if we were to look, if I was like uphold finances, right? Are they growing or are they just staying the same?
I have something that came up for me as I was listening to you. Would you like to know what it is?
Yeah.
What I'm hearing you say is actual integrity.
Okay.
So there's two things that come into play with integrity. Number one, you can think about like structural integrity of a building, right? So if the foundation's in place and it's solid, whatever goes on top of it is going to be in structural alignment or in integrity. You've got a solid building, right? So integrity from that perspective. The other way to look at integrity is doing what you say you'll do when you say you do it, that you'll do it.
Right.
Right. So not integrity from a values judgment of, oh, that person doesn't have integrity or, blah, 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 right. Like how sometimes people use integrity as a weapon because they have a different set of values than someone else. And they say, oh, well, that's not integrity. Well, it might be for that person. Maybe it's not for you. So get your judgy little self out of there. However, what you were actually talking about in those scenarios is what I'm hearing you say is integrity. So if we're looking at financial piece, that the structure is in place and it's growing and building, and that your financial house is in integrity. If it comes to like managing external environments and staying true to yourself and what you've said you're going to do and what you're going to create and what's going to happen, and that doing what you say you're going to do when you're going to do it, and those things happen, that's integrity. All that to me, like, if that is the word for the year and then everything falls into that, you're going to start to see and pop up all the other things that are out of integrity that maybe not even have an awareness around right now. And instead of thinking it as a judgment, think about it securing up the structure and aligning the self. And that could be a higher context for you than uphold for the year.
Yeah, that helps because uphold seemed very limiting. It's kind of like a shelf. At least that was my struggle with the word in itself.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, we got time for one more.
I'm getting very brave, Casey. I'm sitting here going, oh no, you won't do. No, I don't think so. Um, I, yeah, it's very interesting listening to you in the beginning and talking about what you were talking about because my husband died 5 years ago and it's been a real challenge coming. I mean, I totally, as I've heard you speaking and seeing what you've gone through, I totally, get it. And I think you're absolutely amazing. But I'm back into really claiming my business now. I mean, coming back into being able to get back into it and believe that I can do it. I've had some success, but it's time I just got on with it and finished it and did it and supported people and just stood up, and got on with it. So I'm sitting here struggling with it. I know I can do it. Now that I've stopped howling, that helped. And, and being able to just get stronger in yourself and feel that you are worthy of it and all that stuff that I tended to have to go through. But to get a word, it's just like, and I heard you talking about, your word embracing it. And I'm thinking, that is to some extent what I need to do is just embrace all these things that I'm having to learn and step forward and just be brave, or a word similar to that. It's just I'm not done yet. I've got to get on with it. This is a really, really powerful thing for me. I have to do this.
Do you have to or do you want to?
I want to. It's not about having, I have to do it because otherwise life, it's my purpose, it's my passion. What I do, I absolutely love it. And I didn't know I'd ever come back and do it because I had to battle through all this other stuff. Yeah. And I think now that I've done that, or I'm sort of on the journey of getting through that, it's more now really, it's like, okay, so I know what I could do. I've just got to get out there and be brave enough to do it.
Yeah. So there is an interesting word that perhaps you could play with, and it is the word surmount. And it means to overcome any obstacle or difficulty.
Yeah, I'm a Capricorn.
It it could be an interesting thing or something in that arena. This idea of overcoming, it could be overcoming your whatever it is that you see, that whether that is questioning belief that you have in yourself or willingness to do the work that it takes to create what you're going to create. And if there's a context like that or in that arena that that could support you in all of those, that would encapsulate all of those things, right?
Thank you. That's a great word. Thank you.
Yeah, or something in that family. And that might not be it. It could just be,
Yeah.
get you on the track.
Yeah,
All right, so we
yep.
are almost at the top of the hour. Thank you to each and every one of you for joining in. The link for this call will be on empirebuilders.pro under the resources tab. It will be up later today. And here is what I would love from each one of you is if there's ways that I can support you in living into or even clarifying the context that you're setting for yourself this year, I would love the opportunity to support you in that way. And then in the context of support, I would also like to ask that now that you know what mine is, embrace that anytime that we have interaction during the year, that you check in with me to see how it's going as far as me using and utilizing that for the 2025 year. So appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for being you. And we'll be back here in 2 weeks. All right. Love y'all. Make it a great day.